Hi, this is Mike, WB4HUC, and I've got some flakiness going on with one of my antennas that I wanted to demonstrate this morning. Not to demonstrate the flakiness in the antenna, but to demonstrate the tuner and the amplifier's response to the flakiness. So basically what's happening is the SWR is spiking on my wire antenna, which is a ZS6BKW antenna. And it's unpredictable, it's very rapid, very quick. It's not like something's heating up, you know. Sometimes if you have a problem, the balance heating up or whatever, it'll rise over time. This isn't doing that. This is instantly. It changes from good to bad. And when that happens, the tuner detects it, and the tuner will interrupt the keying line to the amplifier. So the way this the radio and the tuner and the amp are connected is the amplifier keying line goes from the radio to the tuner, then to the amplifier. And if the tuner sees something it doesn't like, it will interrupt that keying line, and the amplifier won't be keyed anymore. So instead of putting a few hundred watts into some sort of bad load, you're only putting the amount of drive power to your amplifier into the bad load. And so hopefully that'll save you, a lot of damage. So I just wanted to demonstrate that. It's acting a little bit differently down here in the CW portion of the band than it does up in the phone portion, but it's still all the same problem. I think I know what it could be. This has happened before. Sometimes one leg of the wire antenna will come loose in the wind or something and be flopping around, and that'll cause it, or perhaps the ladder line coming off the center insulator, the amplifier, coming off the center insulator of the antenna is about 40 feet of ladder line. Maybe that stuff's been blowing around in the wind and gotten twisted up or doubled back on itself or something. I don't know. I'll go look. But for now, this is really what I wanted to show. So we're at 100 watts on the radio. The amplifier's in standby mode. The tuner's in manual mode. We're on the wire antenna, 17 meters. There's our frequency. Here's our reported SWR. According to the tuner, so it's not the best, but it's acceptable, right? It's not bad. So if I key the radio, yep, it actually dropped a little bit, although the power meter is reporting a little bit higher. It's reporting 1.7 to 1. There's always a little bit of a difference between these two. I generally pay attention to the power meter, but in this case, we'll pay attention to the tuner. But you can see we're okay. Nothing's happening. We're putting out over 100 watts. But and that's one of the differences between what's happening on the CW portion of the band and the phone portion of the band. On the phone portion of the band, the tuner was faulting even at 100 watts. So like I said, and I'll show this even further a few minutes from now, but I think it's some issue with the antenna. So let's do this. Let's put the amplifier in operate mode. You'll see that our drive power drops to 25 watts, which is about what I need to get 400 or 500 watts out of the amp. Again, we're in operate mode. There's no faults. We're connected. And let's just see what happens. Okay. So even with that just sending a DIT, the tuner, the SWR rose above the threshold that's set in the tuner, and we've interrupted the keying line. So as far as I know, there's basically two ways to clear, we can clear the fault right away. And you notice the amplifier didn't fault. So I'm assuming that the tuner detected it, interrupted the key line before the amplifier could fault. And even if the amplifier is seeing the high SWR, it's not being keyed, so it's not reporting anything. But just to be safe, we'll put the amp in standby mode, and we'll go down here and we'll clear this fault. And if, like I said, this is changing erratically, so if I key the rig and let's go back down, let's lower the power back to 25 watts, more or less. And if the tuner suddenly sees a decent SWR, it will by itself reactivate the keying line. Okay, now it wants to tune. Okay, so he's not seeing a lower SWR. So usually my SWR with the tuner in bypass mode is under 2:1, and that's not. So there's something definitely, I think, wrong out of the antenna. Wouldn't I be surprised if I go out there and the whole thing's lying on the ground? Anyway, so we can initiate a tuning cycle. And I'll do that pressing the tune low power button on the radio. You can see the SWR is all over the place up here. And we're back down to 1.74, 1.75 to 1. A little lower than that in the tuner, but you know. And the key line is reconnected. So, just to show you that the tuner will interrupt the keying to the amp to protect the amplifier from putting a lot of power into a mismatched load. And I can demonstrate why I think it's only this antenna. I'll switch to the other antenna, which is my vertical, and we're still in standby mode on the amplifier. And now we're showing a much lower SWR, tuned, untuned, in bypass mode. This is what it would be. I can go back to 100 watts. Getting 105 watts with low SWR. I can put the amp in operate mode. Drive power automatically drops to 25 watts. We're getting just over 500 watts out. And our SWR isn't really changing. So the problem seems to be isolated to that wire antenna. I don't know what it is. I'm going to go out and check. But I just wanted to show quickly the how the tuner can protect the amp. The amplifier will also fault too. So if I hadn't had the tuner in line, or if the tuner would have been in bypass mode, I suspect the amplifier would have reported the high SWR fault. So there you go. And these, what you're looking at here and here, are two little computer programs I wrote, and I've done a couple of videos on these programs if anybody's curious. They're written in a language called BBC Basic, and they were written on an IBM compatible PC under Windows, and they simply talk to the amp and talk to the tuner through the 9-pin serial ports on each device. I'm matching 9-pin serial ports on the computer. I don't use USB to serial converters. And they constantly report, interrogate the devices for these, for each of these settings, and then report that back to this little display. And when something changes, they report it pretty much instantly. But these are homegrown programs that I've written, and they've been very useful to me because I can keep my eye on the computer screen if I need to, and I don't have to turn my head to look at each of the devices to see what's going on. So that's the story behind these two. Anyway, there you go. Just wanted to show the again how the tuner can protect the amp, and maybe even itself. I don't know, maybe not, but especially how it can protect the amp when things kind of go not in an expected way. As always, thank you for watching. I appreciate it.